blow your ears out, Dr. Hsu! I told you I'd blow your ears out! What is shaking, y'all? Episode 143 of the Golden Mike Live. It's your boy, Mark Cordone. And guess what? I've got my therapist with me today. No, it's not my therapist. But in the Asian American community, we call these folks triple threats. It's triple threat because she's a physician. Triple threat because she's an actor. Triple threat because she's a coach. You gave me the intro. Why are you laughing? You're a triple threat. I'm so excited that my folks are not watching this show right now because they totally get on my case to go back to school and finish my med school degree. Here we go right into the therapy. Dr. Penelope Hsu is here today. How are you, Dr. Hsu?
I am so good. I'm so excited to be here, Mark. I can't wait to dig in.
I can't wait to dig in either, my friend. For those of you who are here to watch Dr. Hsu, have no clue who I am. I'm an Asian American too. My name is Mark Cordone. Positive psychology coach, founder of Make Money Coaching, co-founder of The Joy Revolution. And more importantly, I get to ask folks like Dr. Hsu, like my friends, like my family on a regular basis, two things. It's not crazy empirical data, the positive psychology stuff. It kind of is, but not too crazy. But it's two main questions. Number one, how happy are you today? Right? So Dr. Hsu, I might have to use like technical terms. What is your positive? I don't know. I don't even know.
You're going to try to stump me now?
No, I am not going to try to stump you. We are not going into Asian comparison wars right now. We are not doing Asian Olympics.
Yes, let's not do that. Let's break the mold.
Let's break the mold. We are not going to be the crabs that pull each other back into the pot.
Right. That's right.
But how happy are you today? And then also at the same time, how much are you living your life in full purpose? So Dr. Hsu knows, Penelope knows that that's a double-barreled question, but I'm asking it anyways. So like, how happy are you today, Penelope? And how much are you living in your purpose?
I'm really excited today. Wednesdays and Fridays are sort of my coaching days, which are like the best days of the week for me. So, having 3 jobs can be a little bit tricky and I'm busy every day. But I'm not even going to lie and say that, coaching doesn't light me up. It totally does. So on my coaching days, I have a bunch of client calls. I was able to go to the gym this morning. I'm rehabbing a really bad ankle injury. So I'm getting stronger. I'm getting better. I'm talking to you. So I am very happy today. And then the other question was, how much am I living in my purpose? I think I am. I mean, I think the percentages of what I'm doing could be a little bit different.
Okay.
I don't want to say better, but maybe I mean better. And I could certainly be helping more people, but I think for where I am and what I'm doing, I'm very, very blessed, and I feel very grateful for being able to just be here now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, if you missed the intro because I was screaming, Dr. Hsu is a medical doctor, a certified coach, and an actress. It's called the triple threat in the Asian American community. Families talk about people like Penelope and they make their kids feel bad because of it. I told you, I've got issues as an Asian American, dude.
Here we go. Okay.
Now this is the thing is like for most people, like getting what order did this come in, Penelope? Like, was it doctor, coach, like? Was this your life plan?
Oh, hell no. How could this be anybody's life plan? It is so random.
Amazing. It's amazing is what it is.
It's random. I mean, I think, so my origin story, right? Like, I always loved science. I was always a nerd. I loved flashcards as a kid. Those were my favorite games. But I also loved dancing.
Loved flashcards.
I did. I was allergic. I was allergic to everything. So I couldn't have dolls. I couldn't have stuffed animals. So I had flashcards.
Right on. Amazing.
I was bred to be a doctor.
You were totally
no
bred.
dolls for you.
Now, when you grew up in the United States, if it's Asian American, were your parents immigrants to the United States? Okay, so do you feel like you grew up with the typical Asian American pressures?
Of course.
Talk to me about it.
Absolutely. I mean, to an even larger extent, I think, because my mom wanted to be pre-med. When she got to college, she went to Queens College, and she started off pre-med, and then they essentially dissuaded all of the women from going into the pre-med track, and instead they got routed to nutrition. And so my mom became a nutritionist, yeah. And so she was a hospital dietitian for many years, and then she worked into the school system for many years, and then she finally segued into teaching. But she always wanted to be a doctor and couldn't, which I think is like the highest level of Asian guilt there is, you know? And so, I mean, Asian guilt is already like, but hearing this whole story growing up of like, I couldn't do it, women weren't supposed to do it, you know, and now, you know, you're going to do it.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that. Yeah,
Is
it,
what I heard.
it's an interesting thing. Both of my folks came to the United States and were physicians, and so I when we first moved to Florida. I had no yaya, no babysitter yet or anything, right? So I would go on rounds with my
Oh my
parents, right? And so like I remember, don't say that that's cute. You know that that's horrific, right? Later, like I'd go on rounds with the parents, and then we'd stop at the nurses' stations. I remember Dad would do his notes, his dictation. We'd go in and see the patients. Everyone would be like, "Are you going to be a doctor just like your mom and dad when you grow up?" And I'd just be
Right,
like, "Yeah."
right,
Totally,
right, of
right?
course.
You know, and,
Yep.
and so it was brutal telling them that I was not going to go to med
That's
school. It was
cool.
brutal,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I
but
know.
yeah, but yeah. So you went to med school. You
I did go
finished
to med.
that, and was that something that you became internally motivated to do, or was that something that still was like, this will be stability, this will be, you know?
Well, I think it was there's a couple things. So like I said, I loved science. So I was immediately drawn to biology when I got to college. So I was a bio major,
Hmm.
and I loved psychology. So I was a psych and bio double major. And I remember my advisor in college, my faculty advisor, basically said like you have, you know, three options. You can be a teacher, right, with a bio degree. You can be a therapist with your psych degree, or you can go to med school. And I was like, that's it? That's the only three things I can do? But this is my faculty advisor at like the University of Pennsylvania, like, you
Yeah,
know, an Ivy League school, and you're telling me I got three choices?
yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And I believed him, you know, because I
Uh-huh.
was like, whatever, 19, right? And I was like, oh, okay, so which one do I try? And so I tried following around one of my psych professors who, you know, did clinical stuff. And so I watched her, work with patients through the, mirrored
Sure.
glass and all that. And by the end of the week, I thought I was going to commit suicide. Like, I was so depressed. I was like, this is insane. And, I didn't know that, therapists have supervision and all that kind of stuff, right? I was just like, oh my God. So I was like, okay, not going to become a therapist. And then I start looking at some of my biology professors. I'm like, well, is this what I want to do? And that was clearly no. So then it was med school. And, again, I had been taught to think about medicine as a career from a very young
Yeah.
age. I love science. It kind of made sense. I volunteered at a hospital, and they're very smart. They're very smart when they hire volunteers because they put you in fun places. I was in labor and delivery, right? Basically, like bringing towels to new parents, so they could wrap their little bundles of joy. It was so fun. I was like, oh my God, I love this. I love medicine. I want to do this. And so, yeah, eventually by like the end of sophomore year, when you start, applying and taking the MCAT, thinking about all those
Yeah.
things, I
Yep.
was like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm okay with this. I like it. I had done some research in a lab and I hated that. So I knew I wasn't going to be a bench scientist. So it seemed to be the career that made the most sense
Yeah.
at the
Yep.
time. And during college, I had kind of like let a lot of my artistic ideas and dreams sit on the sideline, right? So when I was
So there
younger,
is an artsy side to Penelope.
yeah.
There's
So
more than just. Uh, actually, I've got them two index cards.
are they color coded? Are they
Oh, I've got all the
highlighter?
color. I got all
Yeah,
the different color pens still from
that's right.
Orgo.
That's
Oh,
right. Oh
totally.
yeah.
So
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 yeah,
we go to med school, and how was that for you? Because I
Oh,
know a big part of your mission right now has to do with medical burnout.
yeah. Yeah, I realized the day that I got to campus that I had made a mistake. So the other part of this is that, like I said, I had taken dance lessons since I was 4. I studied like 5 different musical instruments. I took acting classes in high school and in college. Like I really did ride, both sides
Yeah.
of the equation, right? Art and science. And when I had applied to medical school, I didn't get in anywhere right away. And so I graduated from college not having gotten into med school, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And so I decided to, for the summer, I was going to take like a high intensive like acting conservatory type thing. And I did at the Stella Adler Conservatory, which was amazing. And at the end of it, they were like, "Hey, we'd like to invite you to our MFA program for acting." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I was like, maybe this is a sign, right? I'm
Yeah.
supposed to go this way. I got into med school that same week. I got the acceptance letter.
Oh.
And you can imagine what my household was
Choices.
like. Yes. Oh my God. It was like World War III in my house. And, when I was 21, I didn't have enough self confidence and enough belief in myself as an artist to say, I'm just going to throw away this opportunity to go to medical school, right?
Right.
Like, I think that's probably the wiser thing. And obviously, that's what my parents wanted. It seemed to make the most sense. Um, so I went, and then when I got there, I realized I'd made the wrong choice, right? I saw all these people super excited to be moving in and to be getting our textbooks and to be getting our white coat and, all these things. And every syllabus that got handed to me, I felt like I was sinking deeper and deeper into the ground, and I was like, oh no, this isn't right. Like I don't feel any sort of excitement. I feel dread. And
Yeah.
it was like,
Where's the class where we get to hand towels to new parents?
yeah,
Right.
right, right, right. What is
Textbook.
12 of them?
12 of them.
What? I've never seen this many textbooks for one semester before in my life. Um, so I knew I'd made the wrong choice, and it was probably it was a very dark time, I would say. I mean, it was definitely a very depressing time. Yeah, it was very difficult.
What
It
kept
was
you
very.
going?
Um, it's a very good question. I tried to quit many times. Every summer, in between years, I would run out to LA because a bunch of my friends had moved out there and they were doing the thing. They were doing the dream.
Yeah,
They were
living the
acting.
dream. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go out there and stay with them and crash on their couch for a summer, get little acting gigs that I could, like student films and
Right.
extra work and whatever, right? And I was loving it. And every time I would go out there, I'd be like, I'm not going back to New York. I'm not going to go back. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to quit med school. One thing that they use a lot is just the financial responsibility of it, right? Like, obviously grad school is very expensive and I had to take out loans. And I remember the bursar calling and just being like, well, if you quit, you're going to owe us X number of dollars and you have to start paying it back immediately and da 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 da. If you continue your training,
Yeah.
then those get deferred. And when you're doing student films and extra work, like you can't be paying off a student loan, or at least I couldn't figure that out. And so I came running back. Like every year, I just came running back just because I was afraid of like being bankrupted by my student loans. Um, and then an interesting thing happened also, wherein so my classmates knew that I always would like run away every summer. And I came back one fall and everyone started like looking at me weird and kind of like tiptoeing around me. And I was like, what is happening? What is going on? And finally I just asked somebody, I was like, what is up? And the person was like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. What's up? And they're like, well, we heard that you had had a nervous breakdown and thought you were an actor now. And so that's why you keep going to LA because you think you're an actor.
Oh wait, classmate said this.
Uh-huh.
I'm getting in the. Jumping in the. I'm jumping in the box with you. I'm doing what coaches are not supposed to do. I'm getting the juicy details right now, um, and I must say that part of me is empathizing because when I was in my doctoral program, the f- um, the first day I was in my doctoral program, I was like, uh-oh, I'm gonna have to learn to love this one because
Yeah.
this is different. This is
Yeah.
different. And what kept me going was uh, shaming my family. And so like I didn't want to. They were like, finally our son got his shit together. Like he didn't run away
Be a doctor.
yeah, right. And he's gonna have that PhD, which is technically a doctor.
Right.
And I kept going because of I didn't want to shame anybody, and I
Yeah.
wanted to continue a legacy. It was too much for me. Like my mental health would not hold on to it. But that's
Yeah.
really interesting that like your classmates were like, so you ran away and thought you
You're
were an actor.
crazy. Yeah, like you belong in a padded room.
Wow.
And so it became this giant fuck you to
Mm-hmm.
them,
Yeah.
honestly. You know, I was like, you think that because someone has outside interests, they're insane?
Yeah.
Like, what does that say about us as a culture, us as classmates, us as a medical system, right? That like anybody who has any sort of artistic endeavor should be locked in a fucking padded room. So it became like a source of pride for me, actually, that I could do both and that I will do both.
Oh,
God
that's
damn
really
it,
cool. Yeah.
And I'm not going to let you scare me out of here and tell me that I can't be a doctor or that I'm not strong enough to be one, or because I have these other interests I shouldn't be one.
Yeah.
It literally became like a flashpoint for me, and like this like flag I stuck in the ground to just be like, fuck all y'all. Like,
Look at Penelope. Where on the flashcards did it say "fuck all y'all"? I mean, that is really, that could seem like it's hyperbolic, but also at the same time, the type of pressure cookers that not only Asian Americans, but in particular, like, children who've grown up in a collectivist um, sort of mindset. The true happiness comes from what happens with the family, with the collective. There's weird shaming and filial piety going on, and we always feel like kids
yeah,
whenever we want to follow our dreams. Um, I've definitely seen more than one Asian American be like, "Stop fucking trying to tell me how to live my life." And I should have done this a long time ago, but like, read between the lines, people. Like, I'm talented enough to do two things, maybe
right.
three things, and then make all you Asian families and white families talk crap to your kids. Okay, so we're navigating through that situation, and you basically became an angry person. It was anger. Now, was it anger towards just your classmates? Was it anger towards family? Like,
The world.
yeah,
The
you
world.
became punk
Right.
rock. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, not punk rock. I became rap music. I became gangster rap.
Oh, you became gangsta. East Coast, West Coast, Dr. Hsu. Oh,
I have like every Tupac album ever.
oh
I
my
know, like,
god. Oh my god. I so am gonna look for like pictures of you in Jinkos, like in med school with like the fucking bandana to like tied backwards. I know you rode hard back then.
oh yeah, black all the time, big ass baggy jeans. Like, do not fuck with me.
So
Was
what happens in school and what happens with family? Like, do they feel like that? Like I feel like you kind of turned into a game. Like you're like, okay, if you think that I'm crazy, that's fine with me. But like,
yeah,
screw you guys.
yeah,
I'm gonna play up to it. And in many ways, I feel so attached to your story because when there was a point where I went into a rager with the world. And this was the outcome. The hair became red during my dissertation defense, and I shaved
really?
the sides. Yeah, I was like, because in higher education in general, and in anything like hospitals, there's a lot of pecking order. There's a lot of politics, and there's a lot of like symbolic interactionism that goes on. And like, I don't know about you, but I had it when I was doing my oral exams, and I had to wait in the hall as the professors talked about whether or not I was gonna pass. And I was like, this is the biggest bunch of bullshit ever. This is basically hazing at its
Yeah.
best.
Oh,
Now,
absolutely.
now the thing is, I did really appreciate what they gave me because it is who I am now.
Yeah,
Without
yeah,
that kind of
yep.
that kind of edginess, I don't think I would have been where I am. Let's go here for a second before we talk about your dual mission. What drew you into the coaching world now?
So, right. So I survived all of that, and I started, when I finally finished all of my residency, I started doing both, right? I moved to LA. I worked at the Children's Hospital of LA in their ER at night, and then I would do all my acting stuff during the day. Like take classes, and I stage manage a theater company and all that kind of stuff. So for many years, I had the balance. I had the, as I call it, the and I was very happy. And then some personal stuff happened. I wound up moving back to New York, and I kind of fell into a rut. Where I kind of just, like, I was doing the same stuff. I was taking improv classes. I was doing sketches with my friends, like, but it just didn't feel alive anymore. And I couldn't really figure out what was wrong, right? I had a good job, I was dating, like, I was doing supposedly the things that I love to do. And yet there was still this, like, numb, dead kind of energy that I just felt all the time. And so I went to therapy. I went to therapy in medical school. I went back to therapy, didn't really help. Went to church, started going to church. I needed to find God. And so, and that has helped. I started journaling. I went vegan for a while. I was like, what is up with me, right?
Now,
and
were
I
you
was
still
trying.
gangster in all of this? Were you like going to
I had
church?
mellowed.
Okay.
I had mellowed. The time in LA, I always say that, LA always represents like my pure passion, right? Because I let go of a lot of anger while I was there because I finally got to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't hanging on to that anger anymore. I had certainly proven to everybody that I could do both. And so that kind of fell away. I reconciled with my mom, so I let go of a lot of the anger while I was in LA, which is great. But this whole numbness thing, I couldn't figure out. And so, there's, like nothing happens by chance, right? Everything happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
My aunt dragged me to this like women's empowerment conference that she was attending. And I was like, what the hell is this nonsense? Right? And she was like, just come. What else do you have going on? Like, you don't have a life anyway. I was like,
Yowzers!
true. So I went. I mean, I was really kind of stuck. Like I wasn't really seeing my friends as much. I wasn't really doing very much of anything.
Yeah.
So I went, and there was a speaker who, just said the right things and just, made me finally feel something. It had been like probably 2 years where I had felt like nothing. And all of a sudden I was like alert, and I was interested, and I was curious. And that speaker had like a bunch of coaches with her. And so as happens at these things, you get a free session if you sign up, and right? So I was like,
let the funnel begin.
yeah, right here. Right here. 5 years later, like I'm still with my coach, know. So I had the free session. I was bawling within like 15 minutes, and it was like a release that I had not had before. And I had been to therapy before, and I had journaled before, and I had done these things before. And it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, and it was completely therapeutic. It was completely cathartic. And so obviously I signed up to work with her. And the more I worked with her, the more I felt myself coming back alive, and the more I felt like, the energy was coming up, and I started to kind of work through all the things. And then I became angry again, because I was like, how the hell do I not know any of this? Like, my job is to take care of people, and I don't know a damn thing about any of what she was doing, And I became really indignant that, like, my medical education and even being a psych major in college, like, did not teach me any of these skills, these types of questions, this type of mindset. And so that kind of got me pissed. And I just wanted to know more and more and more, because it was helping me so much. And so I kept asking my coach for like, what does this mean? And why do you do that? And what is that? And finally she was like, stop it. Stop asking me. Stop picking my brain. Go take a course, because obviously this is your next journey.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, hell no. I am not going back to school. Like, there is no way I'm going back to school. But at the same time, I could not stop being curious about these techniques, about how powerful this was, and why was it so powerful. And so I took a course. And at first, I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I just wanted to know for my own edification.
Yeah.
But I've started using it with my teen patients. I do a lot of sexual health stuff at a community health center that I work at. Teenagers make some very interesting choices. And so I started using some of those techniques, some of those open-ended questions and all that kind of stuff, right? Like coaching 101, to just get these kids thinking about like what would you rather be doing? You know, what could your life be like? And I could see that it was starting to take hold, and I could see some positive changes, and that, you know, and that made me feel great. And I just started to like put it into my practice a little bit more. But I'm a pediatrician, right? So I mean, I can't really coach my babies, you know. So I was like, okay, well,
So
how
let's
else
talk
do
mindset
I?
today. Now that you're 3, let me tell you about this term called woo.
Are you in flow
Are
today?
you in?
Are you in flow?
I'm just creating space for you first. Fuck. Best of both worlds, right there. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then I just started being like, okay, well, maybe I could do this for, you know, adults, right? Not
Yeah.
just like a few teenagers here and there. And so I just started picking up private clients, just one at a time, a couple at a time. And that's kind of how I kind of fell into like, okay, maybe this will be my third job.
And that's what we've been doing ever since.
And that's what we've been doing ever since. Yeah, and it's becoming larger and larger. It's becoming a bigger and bigger portion of my life because I feel like I'm I love what we do, right?
Yeah.
I love what we are able to do for people in terms of really changing lives. I mean, yes, I change a life perhaps by writing a prescription for an antibiotic or something, right? But
Sure.
it's very transactional. It's very unidirectional, right? I give you the treatment plan. Um, you know what I mean? And so coaching is completely different. And so I just love it so much that I want to do it more and more. And I've taken on more and more clients, and now I'm doing workshops for people and
Look at you.
trying to take on the medical world and change the world, you know.
Well, let's talk this for a second because there was a time when I was pre med, right? And
Yep.
was a time when I did internships, right? And
Mhm.
there definitely is a certain theoretical model and a basis for conducting business in the medical world, right? And then it's almost like, to me, it's almost like a very different hat that you wear when you coach,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And you, since you're certified in both, you've taken an oath for both the medical
Oh.
profession and the coaching profession, right?
Mhm.
So like, is there ever a time when you're coaching and you're like, "Ugh, I gotta take off my like coaching hat right now and just tell it like it is, like a doctor would right now, and just be like, you gotta stop this behavior right now," or
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
really easy to keep those
I think
boundaries?
I think it was easier, honestly, when I was less busy.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Right? Like I'm so busy now, which is a blessing, right? And I'm very grateful. But like it, you know, I used to be able to sort of like prepare for my client and, you know, sit and center, and obviously I still do that, but like it's much, you know, it's like 2 minutes instead of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
15 minutes. Um, I have to become better at switching hats. But no, there are times where yes, I'm like literally like I'm glad coaching is done over the phone because I'm literally like, oh, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
Yeah.
You know, because yeah, my default mechanism is to go into fix it mode, right? Is to give you the solution, is to tell you what to do. And it is sometimes it's more of a struggle than others. Um, but overall, like I just always have to go back to the fact that like that's what's so freeing about coaching for me, you know, is that I don't have to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
I just have to partner with people and watch them, you know, develop and watch them figure out their own problems and watch them step into their own power. And that is just such an amazing feeling that like
Doctors
I need
step
to
into
like
their own power.
I need to roll
Amazing.
back. I know, right?
Well,
Um,
let me ask you this, Penelope. Um is there a stigma on coaches, or like, now that you're a doctor, are people like, why did you become a coach?
oh
Like,
yeah.
there's still that stigma.
150. I mean, more often than why did you become a coach? Is what the hell is a life coach?
I thought I was done explaining my life too once I
Yeah,
left higher education.
nope. It just
Yeah,
it nope, nope. It's I almost kind of they were not quite the the salacious looks of like you belong in an insane asylum, but they were like, what are you doing now? Like, why would you do that? Like,
Right.
what is going on with you? So I think in the medical world, there's just like an ignorance about what coaching is, right? Because it's so diabolically opposite to what that model is. They don't see eye to eye on very many things. And so there's just this fear of the unknown, right? Like we don't understand what it is. We don't know what it is, so we don't trust it. They don't do randomized, placebo-controlled trials, so we don't believe it. Like there is that stigma, and I think there's just overall like a level of ignorance about it. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I just really mean like there's an absence of knowledge about what coaching is and what it can do.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think when I started the business up and I was like especially talking to a lot of, because my family's still friends with a lot of doctors, right?
Sure.
And they're like, so what do you do now? And I'm like, I'm a coach. And they're like, for like football or something? And I'm like, do I look like a football coach? And they're like, so you're like a motivational speaker or something, And how does that happen? Where's your office? And I'm like, well, technically, like wherever I work, just as long as it's a quiet place. And they're like, what are you? What's happened to you?
What?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so I wanted to throw it out here now. You've well, actually, before I go into the missions, what do you think that the medical profession can learn from coaching, and what you've learned from about acting, and like also vice versa, and what can coaching learn from the medical community or acting, and like what can acting what do you incorporate from medical, and like how do those three things come together for you?
Well, for me personally, they came together about a year ago, and I was talking to one of my many mentor coaches about the fact that I was like a chicken without a head, like just running all the time, and like I actually did show up to the wrong job on the wrong day once, and I was like, okay,
You're
this
the
is
best.
something bad. I was like, am I not working a 9-hour shift in the ER? No, not me. Okay. Just showed up. So when I thought about how these three things could fit together, because they really don't seem like they would, what I came up with, or what me and my coach came up with, was to be able to do these workshops, right? So when I go into a medical organization or a residency program, right, I have an audience. I'm usually on a stage. I have my light, right? And so that kind of hits the performer box.
Yep.
And generally, I'm creating my own content, right? So it is creative. It's creative writing and all that kind of stuff. So it checks the performer box. I definitely feel like I'm still helping people, right? So that kind of checks that aspect of it. But I'm doing it in a more holistic way. I'm doing it in a more, like, for lack of a better word, motivational way, rather than a prescriptive way, right? I'm not diagnosing and prescribing you anything, but I'm still going to change your life. And so that's how I get all three to fit into my own life currently.
Yeah.
What I think medicine can take from coaching is again empowering the patient, because most of medicine is very patriarchal, right? Like I tell you what to do. We give orders, right? I order a nurse to do what I want him to do. I order the X-ray tech to do that's why they're called orders. And so there's this very like hierarchy. You're talking about hierarchy. It's very hierarchical, and the patient is all the way on the bottom, right? I'm going to order you this test. You're going to go do it. And then you're going to come back, and then I'm going to tell you what it means, and then we're going to figure out a plan. I'm going to figure out the plan, and then I'm going to give it to you, right? It's very unidirectional, and so it's very disempowering to the patient. And I think by empowering the patient, you tap into their strength, right? I mean, that's the core of coaching. Everybody has so much strength and wisdom in and of ourselves. If we could just tap into it. And so if you allow a patient to tap into that and come up with part of the treatment plan with you, really figure out, what is the next step that I can do? I can't lose 10 pounds, right? I mean, just looking at diabetes is a great example, right? I mean, you can tell somebody their A1C is high. You can tell somebody that they need to cut carbs, they need to take their insulin at this time, and they need to check their glucose 4 times a day, and then they don't do it. Right? And then we get frustrated that they're not listening to us. The patients are frustrated because they're not getting any better. And it just becomes this like standoff. But if you can kind of get them to be part of that plan and be like, okay, if you don't want to check your glucose 4 times a day and this and that, what can you do? Right? What is one thing that you can do this week,
Progress.
right?
Yep.
Right, to just take a step in the right direction.
That's
All
so
right.
solid. That is so solid. And what I love is you're the first doctor that came on the show that is talking about the idea of we can co-create a relationship together. The I almost said the coach, the doctor and the patient, where it's not a unidirectional relationship. It's one in which if someone is empowered, they can come in and say, I know that you're saying this, doc, right now, and also what I'm saying to you is that, like, intuitively, I'm just not getting that feeling right now. Is there any other thing that we can look at right now? And especially in a world that's very specialized in Western medicine, like, to
Right.
look at the holistic, because someone could be going down a rabbit hole for years, and because they're going to the wrong specialist, they're not thinking about what the core issue is,
Right.
right? So I love it. I love it that it's actually, when you talked about it, it's this idea of, like, community of care, right? Like,
Hmm.
everyone takes responsibility for everyone else's well-being, right?
Yeah.
Um, we're, for those of you tuning in right now, she and I are in flow. Penelope and I are in flow because I realize we just hit the 39-minute mark, homie. Can you believe this? And
Yeah.
I want to go into. We'll definitely have you back, but I want to go into your dual mission now, because now it sounds like you're firing on all three cylinders. Probably next time you come on the show, you're gonna have 5 degrees or whatever the fuck you're gonna do to make me look bad again. But, like, what does this look like now for the medical mission, your Asian American mission? Also, you've created programs. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So for the medical community, the first thing I did was I created like a little video series, like a little video course, which I
Yeah.
call Prescription for Change. It's like 4 videos. Each one is like maybe 5 minutes long, and they all just kind of give you different nuggets of, like one little coaching tip, but also some context, obviously. And it was designed to kind of hit all the different people that would be in a medical system, right? So there's one for residents and medical students. There's one for practicing docs who are just getting crushed by their daily responsibilities. There's one for hospital administrators who have very different stresses, and then there's just one on just general coaching questions. So there's a couple of like video courses that I've created, and for the Asian American community, I've created one also. That just kind of speaks to everything that we've been talking about, right? How do you get out from the guilt, like the tons and tons of guilt? How do you get out of that programming, that messaging of, yeah, you don't matter, right? Your job is to bring me honor,
Yeah.
right? And you only have value when you bring honor, when you bring me money, when you support and respect your elders, and what you want does not even factor into the equation.
Ooh,
How
that
do
sounds
you
very unidirectional too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very right.
Yep.
And right. So how do you equalize that balance? How do you, as I call it, get your and right? How do you do both? How do you respect your parents and yourself? How do you have financial stability and still have passion in your life? So I have a whole course on that. And like I said, I'm trying to get into organizations to kind of talk to as many people as I can, right? Whether they're medical organizations, Asian American organizations. I've done stuff for women's groups, like all sorts of different people. I just want to get this message out that, like, you can have it, maybe not all, but you can have an and. You can always find an and not an or. You don't have to give up, your own passion, your own dreams, and you don't have to kind of diminish yourself to fit in, or, you don't have to take that unidirectional flow, right? You
Right.
can equalize it.
Right. So let's talk about the Asian American mission, and then let's go and talk about the medical mission. Um, how has this been for you in terms of talking about the and with other Asian Americans? Is it something that's still very much like, it's easy for you to say now that you've done it, or is it something where it's like, I really look up to you. That's really cool that you're able to, have multiple domains in your life and not caricaturize yourself as one thing.
Right. I think it's been overwhelmingly positive and
Yeah.
overwhelmingly like refreshing, right? Like I really didn't think that was possible. I really didn't know anybody. I've never heard of anybody who's doing these three very crazy different things,
Nope.
right? And so I do think it resonates because, a lot of people like yourself, like you were going to get a PhD to not shame your family, not because you actually wanted it, right? I have a client
Yep.
who is a physician who was guilted into becoming a physician like I was. there's so many of us out there that took these stable jobs, got their MBA, got their PhD, got their JD. Like I say, the only appropriate careers for us are the ones that come with letters, right? IT, MD, JD, MBA, right? Like that's it. You can't be an artist. You can't, want to be a historian or a writer. Like, so there's so many people who fell into those categories, but is not their passion. And so I feel like I'm speaking to them, and when they hear that I've been able to do it, that obviously it piques their curiosity and hopefully gets them thinking about how can I do this also.
That's really cool. We got Walter that's watching from Canada who keeps hitting the thumbs up button on you right now, and he's saying it is about finding the and, not just the or, right? I either have to do this or that, and I love how it's coming full circle, because it's almost like when you first got your, when you were 19 years old and you were given options. All the options were ors. It was all ors. And so I really love how the conversation is coming full circle. Oh, yeah, we got an Asian American psychiatrist up in here. Oh. This is right up my alley, says Jason Nugget. Tuning in right now. It's good to see you, buddy. So, yeah, we've got the folks tuning in. I actually had the comments shut off for a while. I was like, why the fuck's nobody commenting on this? Is amazing. So we can find the Asian American program on guidingclarity.com.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's on the screen right now. If you guys look up, you can click that and go there. And the medical mission we can also find on guidingclarity.com.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now, talk to me about this. Talk to me about the burnout phenomenon that you experienced or you're working with people on.
Yeah. So that's right. That's a whole other, it's a smaller world, I guess, in the medical field, right? So on one level, I'm trying to change the way we teach medicine and how we treat everybody. And then for individual burned out docs, it's almost like crisis prevention, right? They're really burnt. I have a bunch of physician clients who are ready to quit. We've done all this training and they're ready to just walk away from medicine because they're so burnt. And so, if you look at the definition of burnout, it's depersonalization, it's lack of efficacy, and it's exhaustion. What that really looks like is everybody experiences burnout, right? It's not physicians, right? It's just that feeling of I have nothing left to give. I'm tapped out. I don't even want to be doing this anymore. And physicians are hitting it in record numbers, right? I mean, the survey from a couple years ago was 53% of doctors feel this way. The most recent one is 46%. So it's getting better. But literally half of us want to quit. And so it's a real epidemic. I think there's more and more awareness about it nowadays, which is great. And I think working with a coach, if you are feeling that way, is really, really helpful so you don't have to wind up. I also have a couple clients who are physicians who are actually out on medical leave now, right? Because their anxiety has become too much. They were breaking down at work every day. And so they literally were mandated to take a break from work. So before you get there, right, I think learning a little bit about self-care, learning a little bit about how you can create an and, even in a very busy practice, how you can take care of yourself, how to get more efficient at the EMR, how to structure your day a little bit better so that you can get home and have dinner with your family instead of being charting for 4 or 5 hours when you get home, which is what a lot of us do. I used to do that. I used to literally chart for 3 hours every night when I would get home. What kind of social life are you going to have? If you have young kids, you can't tuck them into bed because you're charting. It's just, it's ridiculous. And so teaching practical tools as well as those emotional tools, as well as introducing this concept of self-care, which is completely foreign to doctors, right? I mean, our whole medical training is the antithesis of self-care, right? How long can you go without eating, without drinking, without showering, without sleeping, right? And just keep going. And be 100% right all of the time, and don't let any of your patients die. You know what I mean? It is the opposite of self-care. It's literally how much can you do on the least amount of energy that you have. And so trying to change that mindset is what I do with a lot of my burnt out docs, in terms of getting them to understand, if you're burnt and if you're empty, the world loses, right? Your patients, I mean, there's some stat that says it's close to $1 million to replace the physician and all of the revenue that's lost. When you have to close a panel, reopen it, train a new doc, it's an enormous cost to the world when one of us leaves the practice of medicine. And if you can just sort of recalibrate and figure out how to get how to bring some balance to your life, you don't have to get burnt out at all.
I love this. I'm sure you've heard of it, but the and that you're talking about, I feel is what positive psychology calls the ripple effect, right?
Mm,
And that's where like if you're if you're not getting something, if your job is not the perfect job, you can do something else. You don't have to call it your side gig or your side hustle. You can
right.
just do something else, and that has a ripple effect into the things that you're not getting from your current job. And
Yep.
so you don't necessarily have to leave it.
Right.
It's the and that you're putting in.
Mhm.
It's usually because you've kind of dulled your life down to one thing, and you're only doing that one thing over and over and over again.
Yes.
To me, what I learned in both psychology, which you wrote off, jerk.
What do you?
I don't know. I just wanted to fight with you. I like. I'm trying to provoke you to get angry at me. But both in the psychological world, I just totally forgot what I was going to ask. It was a dumb question, anyways. So, I think that idea of burnout, and actually, I know what it is. It's this idea that a lot of people think, and especially if you look at Instagram nowadays, I don't know if you have time to go to Instagram, Doc, but like everyone's idea of a mental health day is that they've hit the wall. Now they're now having a glass of wine, taking a bath, and they take a
Right.
picture of their wine and their toes and say
Right.
mental
Right.
health day when it's actually you've burnt out already.
That's right.
It
That's right.
wasn't a proactive
Yep.
way of really thinking about your self-care, and
Yep.
it's so true. There's a major cost when you lose a doctor, right? There's a major cost to that. And when you're talking about a stat that every two doctors you see, one of them is most likely in a burnout stage, we need
Hmm.
to think about the way that we're not only delivering care, but the way that we're caring for ourselves, the way that
That's
we're
right.
modeling. I love it. You've got Walter lit up here. He's gonna take over the show here. Breaking down the spiritual influencer and loving what you do and who you do it with. And so like in many ways when you went on that search, right? Like, is it with God? Is it in this
Right. Right.
women's retreat? Is it,
Right.
is it in hip hop? Like, it really does. I think Walter does pick up on something. There was a spiritual piece that wasn't being lit up,
Yep.
And the cool thing is that it doesn't have to light up forever. The fact that you're doing three things, you could scale it down, you could scale
Yeah.
it up, you can change
Yep.
directions. It's very malleable.
Yep.
Here he goes again. Walt loves it. It's the Walt Show. Your level of effectiveness goes down with burnout. Absolutely.
That's right. That's the
Absolutely.
definition of burnout. Yeah.
And so there was a point where I was doing, well, I've kind of done it for a while, but social justice work. And um, there's a writer, Sister Lord, who goes and writes that, like, the most of self-care is not self-indulgence. It's actually when you're in some sort of revolution, or when you're trying to make change in the world, the best thing you can do is self-care. That
That's right.
is the best thing that you can do. And so it's really funny that like social justice folks are writing about it, and then docs are like completely burning out left and right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the way that we were raised and the way that we were trained. And I get it, right? Like there's just so much to learn about taking care of a human.
Yep.
There's just so much to learn, and you only have a certain amount of time unless you make med school longer, which would also suck.
Yeah.
But like you have to sort of stay late and see the progression of a disease and stay for the whole surgery, even if it takes 14 hours. Like I get it, but I do think that there is room for some self care in there. And that's what I do. Like I have a stress management talk that I give to as many people as I can about quick and easy things, right? I call them life hacks, right? 20 seconds here, 30 seconds here, right? Quick and easy things that you can do throughout your day to just kind of boost up your energy a little bit so you don't hit that wall of burnout at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, social
It's
justice
amazing.
is another huge world where like you are fighting the good fight. Nobody fights the good fight more than social justice workers, because at least physicians, like we make a decent salary. I know mostly in social justice you don't, right? It's like nonprofit work. It's, you're fighting for funding all of the time. And so, yeah, I would imagine that there's an enormous rate of burnout there as
Oh yeah,
well.
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
mean, we can look at lawyers, we can look at we can look at
Teachers.
nurses, teachers, all of those sort of like these these calling type of works, but like if you don't manage this stuff right now, like it's gonna go wild. I mean, Walt again. Walt, we need to have you just jump on with us and have a conversation. Walt just brought this up. Look at the stats related to medical errors in hospitals that lead to death.
Yeah.
And how many of those folks were like completely just shot.
Shot. Yeah.
It was no sleep, running on like maybe caffeinated beverages, and just completely shot.
Yep.
I have this to ask you. What are you most proud of? Because
Ooh.
you've done quite a bit, and I mean I said it kind of half joking, but also at the same time when I introduced you, I was like, here's a person who has a lot to be proud of. That's what I thought. Here's a person who has a lot to be proud of. It gives me goosebumps to be talking to you, and like, what is your legacy? What are you most proud of?
I think, to be perfectly honest, like I'm really proud of the journey that I've been on, right? When I look at where I was in med school, we didn't even get into like my dark night of the soul where I like literally drove to a bridge during residency, and I thought that was a really good exit strategy for myself. Like when I look back on how dark I was and how hopeless I felt, because I didn't see a way out, and now I look at myself now where like not only do I see a way out, I see so much room to grow. I see so much opportunity. I see so many blessings. I have so much gratitude just for my life. And then, being able to help people get on that journey also, like I just feel so blessed. And if there is a legacy that I'm going to leave, I hope it is the message that like this is possible. It is absolutely possible to have a fully fulfilled life, to have passion, to have stability, to have it all. And that everyone should be striving for that, right? Nobody should be stuck in a place where they don't want to be. Nobody should feel they don't like they don't have any choice. I certainly don't want any of my physician, younger brothers and sisters to ever wind up driving to a bridge, right? And that's why I'm so passionate about doing these talks for residents. Like it does not have to be that dark, right? There is such beauty, and there's so much opportunity, and so much to be happy and grateful for, if we can just kind of navigate that dark space. And that's what I really want to do.
It's becoming so cool what you've designed with your life, right?
Yeah.
Especially because I think stats-wise, the stats for mental health related illness with residents is through the roof, right? It's more than 50%, I think, right?
Probably, yeah.
So, and that was a couple years ago that I remember hearing that stat. Walt, you have to go to www.guidingclarity.com because you're on fire, Walt. I love you. And guess what, Walt? I've got a fever, and the only prescription is a prescription for change, baby.
Wow.
That's bad.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
That's how we're going to end today?
Yeah, West Coast. But Walt, her acceptance and experience of that dark night of her soul increased your capacity to have joy now, which is really cool, like to put perspective into that. No, we're not going to end it on that. I know that you have to run, Doc, but I want to do a visioning activity because you'll probably be the only doctor that will do a visioning activity with me. I want you to, and I want you back on the show.
I would love to.
Get you back on the show. So I want you to imagine now over there in New York that there's this golden mic that's coming down from your ceiling, right? And it's coming to rest right in front of you, Penelope. Now, this golden mic has the power to translate into every language all across the world. And when I flip the switch, Penelope, your golden mic is going to be live and the world is going to be listening to what it is you have to say. So Dr. Penelope Hsu, your golden mic is live now.
I just want to say that everybody was put here for a reason. Everybody has a gift. I fully believe that. And if we were all to maximize our gifts and tap into them and honor them and respect them, the world would be a beautiful place. And if there is anything that is going on in your life that is diminishing that has gotten you lost from it, wherein you don't think you have one, you can't remember what it was, work with a coach. Work with a coach to rediscover who you are, because the world needs you. The world needs your gift The world is waiting for you to show up and show out. And there are so many people who are in this profession who are waiting and willing to help you get on that path, so that we can make the world a better place.
Dr. Hsu, I want you to hold that golden mic up for a second. I want you to feel that weight. I want you to feel the weight of what you just said to the world, right? Now I want you to drop that golden mic and smash it! Smash it with whatever anger's left! Smash! Oh, she did the West Coast drop! West Coast drop! Love it! I agree, Walter. You are awesome, Penelope. It's been really awesome having you on. I can't believe how fast that hour went by.
Yeah, I can't believe it either.
It flew by. We'll definitely get you on soon. Everybody, www.guidingclarity.com. What's really cool is that there's multiple things on that site, and there's going to be more things in the future if
Yeah,
you go
there's
back
more
to
coming.
it. Share this video out. Show it some love. Doc took some time out of her day to share some knowledge with us. And here's the final question that Penelope and I have for everyone watching live or on the replay. And it's this. If you're feeling happy today and you're living your life with full purpose, what is your responsibility to change history for the better? Episode 143 is a wrap. Dr. Hsu, Mark Cordone, hit those hearts. Dr. Hsu, I know you got to run in 1 minute, so
Yeah.
you got my
Thank
cell
you.
phone. Just keep in touch, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sister.
Keep rocking on.
You too. Take care.
Bye.